Johnny581 back again, recapping. As I said in the last video, I fell kind of behind, and this is another episode of Holes and Hunts. Today, we've got a variety of things, sort of. Alright, first is the Creepshow comic that, based on the Stephen King, George Romero film from the 80s, absolute classic. Bernie Wrightson, horror comic king, did the artwork on here, and it was based off the script, so you have essentially the short stories that were in the movie, now done in illustrated form. This I'm cheating a little bit because I found about 2 months back in a comic shop. I was with LC, the master of the mini game. We were driving around doing some card hunting for wrestling, and went into a comic-ish shop. I guess at one point it was more of a comic shop. Now it's mostly collectibles and cards. In the back, there was some long boxes and some piles. I mean literally just piles. Like, it wasn't really organized. Almost like the owner really just didn't care what was back there. Most of the inventory looked like he got burned in the early 90s, judging by what was there. There were no new comics, so I'm guessing it's just whatever's left and he just sells it. There were some horror magazines piled up, and I figured, let me flip through. And I think they were like $2 or $3 each. And in there was the Creepshow magazine, a comic book. And this really isn't that easy to come by. I had one already, but it's really falling apart. It's the way the pages were and the spine. It's hard to find one of these in really, really good shape because as you open it, you can almost feel the glue breaking a little bit. This is an absolute classic. It's one of the best horror anthologies ever. I like the sequel a lot too, and Tales from the Dark Side. But as a tie-in product, it was really cool because everybody remembers the beginning of the movie when you have the kid reading the book that ends up in the garbage and the pages are flying. So, the artwork's really good. It's spot on with the movie, and it's just two different ways to appreciate the same stories. I'm glad I found it. It was only a couple of dollars. It's worth quite a lot. I don't really buy things like, if they have to be worth money, they have to be worth money. I don't plan on selling it. This is for me. It's a great replacement copy. It's dinged up, I'm not going to deny it. It has a lot of flaws, but for the price I paid, and it's an upgrade copy from my old beat-up copy, I'm very happy with that. On to more recent, continuing the N64 kick I've been on sort of as of late. Went to a Game Exchange, which I wasn't familiar with the chain, and I happened to be driving back to Maine from New York, and I saw one, and let me just go in. They had a thing, buy 3, get 1 free on all games that are, I think, $6 and below or $7 and below. So, either way, I don't know, whatever it was, but I was looking through the N64 games, and there wasn't anything I really was dying for, but then I started digging through it a little more, and I thought they were alphabetical, but someone must have moved some around. I found a few that I wanted, but hadn't gotten around to finding, and I think, what did I pay, like $21 for 4 games? Not going to complain. Here's Glover. I think it was a platformer when you're playing the little glove guy. I remember when it came out, for whatever reason, I just wasn't that interested in it, but I was always curious to try it. And N64 games haven't really been emulated too well compared to other systems, so I don't like to play the emulated versions of N64 games at all. I'd rather have the original. And figured, why not give it a shot, help increase the collection of games that missed the first time around. Here's a Clay Fighter 63 1/3. It is not the sculptor's cut. The original Clay Fighter on Super Nintendo was a load of fun. Stop motion claymation animation was really big when that came out, and it was a very unique game. And again, I stress, it was a lot of fun, which games should be. So there was another version that came out on, I think, was there 2 on Super Nintendo? And this may be the 3rd game? Either way, the Clay Fighter 63 1/3 is another fun fighting game, and 64 doesn't have too many fighting games. The Sculptor's Cut was a Blockbuster exclusive that came out after, and I don't remember if it had more characters or a few different backgrounds. That's really hard to find, and I did always want this game. Never got around to getting it the first time around for whatever reason. I haven't seen too many of these in the last couple of years laying around. I'm not happy with the casing. The sticker's okay. It has a little dirt up here, but someone scribbled on it. Not the worst thing in the world. The game works, but could be a cleaner copy. That's just me being picky. Here's Mischief Makers, which is a Nintendo game that got very unnoticed. Always heard it was fun. I don't believe there were any sequels on any other systems. One of those properties that came out, fell by the wayside, didn't catch on as well as they probably wanted. Figured, why not give it a shot? And the front looks really good, but one of the N64 case flaws is that if you have them stacked up, you can't tell what game it is because they didn't bother putting a label on it. So a lot of people decide to write on there. This is one of them. I don't know if I'll be able to scrub that out. Not the end of the world. Sticker's fine, the game's fine, but just one of those annoying things. And finding clean N64 games is not the most common. Here's a game that I did want. One of my friends had it. We used to play it a lot. Another fun game, and I keep using that word because that's what games should be. This was a side-scroller, really good graphics at the time. You're playing as Sub-Zero, taking place in the Mortal Kombat universe, but it's not a straightforward fighting game. It's a traditional side-scroller that utilizes the deep elements that were created in the backstory in the other games. A lot of fun. I keep using that word, sorry. Midway made it. Don't think it came out on another system. It did. Actually, no, it did come out on PS1, if I'm not mistaken. There were other mythologies. One had Jax and Sonya, and it was Special Forces, which wasn't as good, but still kind of cool. I wish Midway would do this more. They have a lot of rich characters, which you don't see too often in fighting games outside of like Capcom did, but Mortal Kombat does have a lot of cool characters. I think they could be utilized in different formats outside of NBA Jam cameos. So I did want this game. That's what set off me finding the other ones just to fulfill the deal. But I found 4 cool games that I was looking for. Great shape, a couple stains on it, but really can't complain. You hear a little rattling, and I checked. It's just the clip over here broke off, which happens every so often, and it just fell in there. So it's not the chip, which is good. Moving on to the classic NES. These were $3 each, and I found them at a local shop. I had a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and I couldn't resist for $2.99 or whatever, $2.97. Just couldn't pass it up. It was sitting there, no box, no booklet, but it does have a first-party Nintendo sleeve. For some reason, over the years, a lot of sleeves have disappeared. They don't take up any more room, but you don't see them too often. You just see loose games. I don't know why they all disappeared. Makes no sense to me. So we got Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Later releases removed Mike Tyson because of all the controversy at the time. But this is a classic, one of the early Nintendo games, one of the most popular. People still talk about it today. A couple years ago on the Wii, they released an updated Punch-Out. So the franchise is still out there. Another $2.97 game, I got Dragon Warrior, which was a Enix game. Nintendo had pretty much this on lockdown at the time, but as we all know, it's moved on to many systems over the years. Dragon Warrior, cool RPG, very classic, very long game that the franchise is still going and is still making games in some fashion. Maybe not directly under the Dragon Warrior name, but it never really went away. This game I never owned when I was younger, but I played it a lot. Used to borrow it from friends. I remember playing it late at night, and it kind of used to scare me. It was one of the first games that I encountered where you're moving on the overworld and you don't see the bad guys right away, and out of nowhere, like, you have a creepy noise, and next thing you know, you're in battle. So when you're, 6 years old, 5 years old, whatever I was, playing it at night, used to definitely bother me. It not, in a fun, good way, but it was funny how you'd just be moseying along on the map world, and suddenly the noise would happen, and you're just in the midst of the battle. Cool game, $2.97, you can't beat it. And again, it came in a sleeve, and can't go wrong. Another one that came in a sleeve, it's not a Nintendo game, so it probably would have, when it first came out, been in a black sleeve, but you could always swap it out later, and it's good to have extra Nintendo sleeves. This is Willow. It's a Capcom game. One of my rules out there is if you see a Capcom game, it's probably going to be good, because for the most part, their games are good, so I always try to grab them. I played Willow a little bit when I was younger, when it first came out. I never owned it, but I would rent it once in a while. I love the movie a lot, so I would watch the movie and then I'd want to play the game. I think it was Zelda-ish, but not exactly. And I remember it being challenging, but a fun game, underappreciated. Willow as a franchise is underappreciated because I thought the movie had a lot of potential for other stories. Didn't really take off in that direction, but that first movie and only movie is still an absolute classic. If you haven't seen it and you just want a good, fun movie to watch, a lot of magic, sorcery, action, it's great. Thanks for watching, and keep on watching, keep subscribing, leave some comments, let me know what you think. What type of games do you guys like? What are you looking for? I always like watching other people's videos or hearing their stories. So thanks for your time, and I'll see you soon.